What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Draconic Sports video. In today's video, we're going to be giving you guys our mid-season playoff predictions. Now, this is a collaboration between me, Moody's, Pine, and Aqua, instead of just me and Aqua as the usual, collaborative and prediction-making people, So we have 4 instead of 2 this time, and so these are kind of all of our opinions, and we kind of all compromised in certain ways for the records and for the playoff predictions that you will see later down the line. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. First up, we have the AFC North. Aqua, you want to do some explaining?
Yeah, before we also officially get into these, keep in mind that this video, the recording in terms of like all the predictions, everything was made after week 10. So anything that happens in week 11, sorry, we couldn't have known. So it's gonna be posted on ideally on Monday. So the games from Monday, Sunday, and Thursday cannot be considered. Anyways, to get into this, in the AFC North, we have the Steelers still holding on to the division lead, barely, because frankly the Ravens had a really bad start, and otherwise this should be the Ravens division, but we think Steelers are going to take it for that reason. And unfortunately 9-8 in this scenario, it will just not be enough for the Ravens to make it in, though they were pretty dang close to making it. It's like, so when you start 2-5, it's pretty hard to come back. As in for the Bengals, similar situation. You don't have Burrow, and based on what we've seen with the defense, even with Joe Flacco playing on an absolute heater against the Bears, couldn't pull it off. So we're thinking something like 7-10 because of that, and they probably don't bring back Burrow. And the Browns have a really good defense, so I think them going 5-12 is fairly optimistically reasonable. Maybe they won't, but either way, they're probably going to be somewhere around there. Maybe they'll be like 4 wins, but still, we think that's how the AFC North should probably go about.
Yeah, I agree with most of these. I mean, the Bengals, Ravens kind of screwed their seasons over, but also injuries, don't help that at all. Steelers just have enough of a lead to really just win this, and the Browns, of course, probably top 5 draft picks. So, yeah, not much to say there. Next up, we have the AFC East, of course, with Buffalo, the New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, and New York Jets. Aqua, you want to give another explanation here?
It's really hard to figure out who we wanted to have win the AFC East between the 4 of us. It was literally a dead tie, and no any form of like reasonable tiebreakers. To the point where we had to put a Discord poll up. Our Discord decided the Bills, so end up giving them the same record at 12-5. And obviously, in this scenario, the Bills would have had to have won the run back against the Patriots. And we don't think Patriots will make the playoffs, and you'll see they make a pretty good seed. We'll see in a minute. But yeah, unfortunately, just short of winning the division. I'm sure they'll definitely be in play for that in the future, but we don't think this is quite the season for them just yet. Dolphins, what more is there to be say? I mean, they only traded away one key player this trade season, but they also lost like Tyreek Hill for the season. So like and even when they had everything together, it just wasn't going well. And frankly, we think this regime needs to go in a different direction. And frankly, a better draft pick would definitely do them better than what we have with 12-5. But that's where we're kind of leaning towards right now. Maybe they'll pick up a few wins against bad teams. Looking at you, New York Jets. Speaking of, we didn't give them. I was gonna give them more wins, but then they traded away their 2 best players in defense, and that offense doesn't really seem to do the best. I mean, sometimes it's good, but like very inconsistent. So maybe like 2-15 might be more realistic, but it's really hard for me to pick a game and be like, yeah, I think the Jets gonna win that game. So we're just gonna go with the 16-1, even if it's probably not gonna end up being that. But yeah, either way, there's 2 really good teams in this division that I think are playoff bound, and 2 teams that are not very good.
Dolphins and Jets do not have bright futures right now. Dolphins are definitely a team that could squeeze away with a few upset wins. That's why 5 wins does make sense. The Jets, on the other hand, after trading away or after making those trades at the deadline, there's really no way they really are competitive in a lot of these games going forward. And as a Patriots fan, it's hard to see them, lose to the Bills, or I guess or be second behind the Bills and not win the division over the Bills for like the 3rd or 4th year in a row now, or whatever it is, dominating them for so long. But Drake May is still developing. Our team's young, and so we should be able to get them within the next few years. But I'm still fine with this prediction. I think this is very reasonable for the East this year. All right, next up we have the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts, Jaguars, Texans, and Titans. I guess I could take this one, as Aqua's already done enough explaining. Colts, starting out 6-2, so very, very hot start there for them. And so 13-4 does seem reasonable, as they've only lost 2 games so far, so losing 2 more does seem pretty reasonable, considering they have a dominant running game, and Daniel Jones is doing well above what he needs to do for them to be competitive. Jaguars, on the other hand, are a very fraudulent team, but at the end of the day, they're getting wins that I guess make enough sense for them to go 11-6, so I could see them sneaking into that playoff spot as the final seed, or as the 6th seed. We'll see. And then the Texans, same with the Ravens and Bengals, just started out too too bad to like come back from it. Their record is just it's just not feasible to come back from that. So 7-10 makes sense. And then the Titans, like same with the Jets, like they're just not good. There's not a good football team. So them getting that fluky win against the Cardinals and then not getting a win since makes a lot of sense. So I could see them actually getting another fluky win and going 2-15. All of these seem pretty realistic, and I'm pretty happy with these predictions.
If you're curious to know that win is coming from, it's the Jets. Yeah, Titans
Yeah,
aren't a very good team either, but someone has to win, so
yeah, that's
Uh,
fair. All right, next up we have the AFC West with the Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers, and Las Vegas Raiders. Aqua, you want to explain this one?
the AFC West, there's three teams that are really competing for potentially a division title. But then there's the Raiders, of course, doing Raiders things. And in this case, we have them going 4-13. That's gonna be a pretty good pick. But yeah, I mean maybe they'll do better. But Gino's been playing terribly, so it's kind of hard for me to predict much more success than that. But hey, maybe I'll pick it up. But as of now, I can't see it. As in for the Broncos winning the division, it's a really hard call there with the Chiefs and Chargers, but not really with the Chargers anymore due to just the sheer number of injuries at the back position as well as their star tackles both being out. If they had just Joel Alt, we definitely would have entertained it and at least had them in the playoffs. But without Joel Alt, it's just gonna be really hard for the Chargers to continue through with all those injuries. Maybe they'll do it, but it's kind of hard for us to see it that way. But as we were talking about these two, the Broncos and the Chiefs. The Broncos have been very fluky, to say the least. Their offense only exists in the fourth quarter for the most part, but that defense is insane. And we think that with the easier schedule, the Broncos will just be able to pull off this division with a split with the Chiefs. But the Chiefs will make the playoffs because it's the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, something, Andy Reid, Spagnuolo. Yeah, of course they're going to make the playoffs. But this year, for the first time, and literally it feels like in forever, we actually predict the Broncos to do it. Will they actually do it? We'll have to wait and see. But like right now, they're in a good spot, so we like them to actually win the division this year.
Yeah, Broncos started off hot. Well, no, they started off pretty mid, but then they, got hot with a couple upsets and with these very close wins and crazy comebacks that they had to endure. And yeah, the Chiefs just started out slow. Like, seems like every other team that was going to be a contender this year, like the Texans and Ravens, Chiefs just started out slow. So they probably will not be able to catch up to the Broncos unless the Broncos absolutely choke away this lead, which they shouldn't. I mean, Sean Payton is a smart enough coach not to have them lose so many games to where they choke away the division. And the Chargers they had the ability to do what the Broncos are doing. They just are not a very stable team, even without Brandon Staley. Jim Harbaugh can't seem to keep them very consistent, especially against the bad teams, which is weird. Doesn't help that their running game is completely just destroyed with injuries and that Justin Herbert still doesn't have a crazy good number one guy, even though Johnston and Lad McConkey exist and Keenan Allen is also back. He still doesn't have that number one guy that transforms the game. But nonetheless, the Chargers still try to survive, and I think that's what they're going to do. And then the Raiders are just kind of the Seattle Seahawks 2.0, but they're 10 times worse, so yeah. Next up, we have the NFC North with the Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and Chicago Bears. Yeah, I guess this was the most competitive division in football last year. This year, not so much because JJ got injured, the Vikings had a bunch of injuries, the Packers are a very inconsistent team, and the Bears somehow have a 5-3 record right now and are low-key cooking, even though it's against really bad teams. The Bears going 8-9 makes sense. They're definitely going to choke away some wins in there. Vikings just had a very good team to start out the season. They just had a really bad few games with all those injuries that happened. And the Packers are they're lucking out right now. I mean, Tucker Kraft is done for the season, and Christian Gonzalez didn't really play at all this season, even though he's back now. He didn't really play at the beginning. They also had that weird game against the Cowboys. And then the Lions are just the Lions
you said Gonzalez,
as usual.
You mean Quinton Watson?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my bad. Yeah,
Christian Patriot brain.
Yeah. Christian Watson was the one who got injured and is now back. But yeah, Packers having that win against the Lions did help them, even though they now have choked away that potential ability to use that win against them, because they're probably going to lose now this second time around, and the Lions are just going to be the Lions of recent years and just probably win the division again. Packers missing the playoffs going 8-1 makes a lot of sense, though, considering this season has been so much of an up and down thing, and the Lions just have had a few bad games, but for the most part have been really consistent, so they should be able to win this division, even though they might not be as good as they were in past years.
It's really hard to say about the Packers, but like losing Tucker Craft kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back in this. It could be overreaction, but we'll have to wait and see. We really haven't had a chance to see how this affects them, unfortunately, because like I said, it just happened. And the Vikings, like I said, it's their schedule's pretty difficult for a start, as like all of these teams' schedules are. And JJ McCarthy's gonna make some mistakes. He's gonna pull off some wins he shouldn't, but it's also gonna make some mistakes. It's gonna cost them. So somewhere around the 500 record seems appropriate. Same with the Bears, because like I said, they played a lot of easy schedule, and they've also been kind of barely winning against these easy opponents. So one would assume they're going to lose some of these games coming up. Plus, if not in division, they haven't exactly been good either. So yeah, Lions not the hottest start ever. They've already dropped two of their divisional games. They haven't lost to the Vikings in forever now, but they finally did that. So maybe they won't win it, but they are the team that looks the best as of right now. So we're gonna have to give it to them here, and we can only assume that they'll probably figure it out as time goes on, because their situation is the whole coordinator situation, and currently some offensive line injuries. I'm sure they'll clean up right now, but yeah, Lions for that reason will be the sole team in the playoffs in the NFC North.
All right, next up we have the NFC East, or as some people call it now, as it was called a few years ago, the NFC Least, because again, we're back to just one team dominating, it feels like, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles, as the Cowboys are now 3-5-1 as of the recording of this video, and yeah, that tie against the Packers kind of just sent them into a spiral of just mediocrity with a really good offense but a really bad defense, so it just kind of cancels out. And the Commanders, of course, injuries have plagued them the entire season, even before the season started. And now Jaden Daniels is out. Scary Terry's been out. Dan Quinn's been having a terrible job, like, managing all of this. And it's just not looked good. And then the Giants are the Giants. They also have been plagued with injuries. But, I mean, maybe they would have been a little bit more competitive with Scadaboo and Neighbors, for entirely healthy. But, again, Brian Dable might get fired. And this team is looking interesting. But for the most part, very inconsistent, very inexperienced. So that's why they make sense, only winning 2 more games. And the Commanders have a good enough roster to win 3 more games, but not nearly as much as they won last year. And then the Cowboys, again, like I said, getting that tie and then also having those like weird blowout, or not blowout, but shootout like wins against the Giants are really weird. Because then they do that and then they lose against the Bears by getting blown out by them. So it's a really weird season for them. The Eagles, again, very fraudulent considering they won the Super Bowl last year, but at the end of the day, they're still miles ahead of these teams in their division this year. So it's not really close. That makes sense why the Eagles are at the top. Just seems like they're going to be able to keep up the ability of winning, especially against the divisional games, to the point where they're just gonna blow out the division. It's not really gonna be close.
Yeah, I'd like to like pick someone else to win the division this year because the whole no repeat winners thing. But like, frankly, all of these teams look terrible. The Cowboys, they traded for some defensive pieces. Hard to say how well that's gonna help them out. But we'll have to wait and see on that. And like Commanders, Jane Daniels has been in and out nonstop, and his offense has looked kind of questionable at best, honestly, at times, and his defense has looked really bad. So them regressing, we kind of all expected it because of how lucky they were last season. Running at almost 90% of their fourth downs is an insane stat that I don't know how someone pulls that off, and it's not shocking that that doesn't repeat. The Giants are a team I actually really wanted to put higher, but like as Ripcord said, they're just really injured at really key spots with the superstars, so it's kind of hard to believe in anything other than that D line. So, and your D line can only do so much to win you a game, even if Jackson Dart's been playing well. So yeah, Eagles will probably repeat for that reason. Even if I don't feel like they're as good as last year's Eagles team, it's like who's winning this division. Even if the schedule is really easy, like there's no way the Cowboys are doing it. Sorry, Jerry Jones, you're delusional.
Next up, we have the NFC South with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, and the New Orleans Saints. Do you want to explain this one?
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is there a lot to say here? Their offense looks electric, and as they get healthier, it should be better, especially when they get Bucky Irving back to help out the run game. Them going 11-6 feels about right. Maybe they'll go a little better. Maybe they'll be a little bit worse because they'll like lose a divisional game they shouldn't, like the NFC South tends to be, and playing down competition. But either way, they should probably win this division 99 out of 100 times. And then we got the Panthers, who have looked good at times, have looked really bad at times. So I'm sure they'll end up, and plus their schedule isn't that hard. So I'm thinking they can probably pull off just enough to maybe clinch that final wild card spot. On an unrelated note, this list totally wasn't made by two Panthers fan. Anyways, but yeah, 9-8 feels like a plausible thing, somewhere around there. And if they get in, we'll see how they do it. But yeah, they definitely think a wild card berth isn't unreasonable. Falcons missing out. I mean, like It's the Atlanta Falcons. They're never consistent. They're gonna win a bunch of games they shouldn't. They're gonna lose a bunch of games they shouldn't, and then they're gonna miss the playoffs because that's just a tradition in Atlanta. And the Rams are gonna be happy about it regardless because they had that first round pick. And the Saints, I mean, with at least Spencer Rattler, I at least saw some interesting stuff they could do on offense, and Timothy Shaheed, but without either of them because they're starting Shuck for this season, which I really don't really know. I just don't have a lot of faith in this team. This team is very lacking of talent, and frankly, I'm not really sure who they're gonna be able to beat. Like the Titans and the like Jets and like teams of that level. I'm not. They'll probably pull an offset off on one of these teams, but either way, the Saints are the Saints, and they're gonna be thankful for a top pick.
Yeah. Saints, yeah, they'll always upset at least like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or one of these teams in some weird fashion. Falcons, yeah, like you said, doesn't really make sense why they'd make the playoffs to the Falcons. And the Panthers, a little bit of a sneaky pick here, but it could happen. It definitely could. The Panthers are on track to be competitive in that that final playoff spot. So we'll see. And the Bucks winning this makes too much sense, as they're definitely the best team in this division by far. Anyways, next up we have as our final division, before we get into the playoff predictions, we have the NFC West with the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Rams, and the Cardinals. Seahawks, they're starting out as one of the best teams in the league this year, with that offense and that defense being, good enough to get them all those wins, doing really, really well. And so 13-4 does seem feasible, as they can like shoot it out with anyone. Like they're that good on offense this year. And then the Niners, of course, somehow like pulling all this stuff off with, the entire like wave of talent on that team being injured. Miracle Christian McCaffrey is insane. And then the Rams, of course, Stafford and Puka and Devontae Adams is really all I need to say. Like those three right there are their entire offense, and it works. So yeah, and then Sean McVay, of course, is their coach. And the Cardinals just are not a good enough team. They're too mid on offense, and they're not a really good defensive team at all. They did have that stupid loss against the Titans, so that should really kind of explain their entire season to you. That kind of sums it up for me, at least. But this is definitely the most competitive division this year. I mean, the Rams and the Niners going at it, 12-5 for like second and third place is crazy. So yeah, wild division here, but really cool to see how this one plays out, because we definitely could get this one wrong.
Yeah, Seahawks have looked like the best thus far through the week. You can make an argument with the Rams, depending on your opinions. 49ers are here mostly because they have a fourth place schedule, the easiest schedule, and also they tend to own their division. So, them getting tiebreaker if they're in a tie record, I'm not shocked about. They could even win this division despite the lack of their talent to being healthy, but we're not going to go that far. And the Cardinals, their defense feels like it's on the rise, but and like their offense has been fine with Brissett, but I don't think it's really a good format, especially when you're talking about the teams that are in their division and the teams they've already lost. I don't know. If this team maybe figured it out earlier, maybe we could see something maybe resembling a wild card appearance. But this team currently is just what the Cardinals have been every year, so no reason to predict anything higher than that until they show us something else.
That will do it for our divisions. Now we are getting into the AFC wildcard. So here are the seedings. We have the Colts at 1, Broncos at 2, Bills at 3, Steelers at 4. So those are the 4 divisional leaders. And then we have the wild cards being the Patriots, Chiefs, and Jaguars. So for the most part, makes sense. Colts have the bye, of course, here being the number 1 seed. And yeah, all these seem pretty feasible, I'm not going to lie. And then, of course, we have the NFC wildcard, which you can assume, how the matchups go by, how the seedings are. But, of course, we have the Seahawks 1, so they get the bye. The Eagles are 2, Lions are 3, Bucks are 4. Those are the divisional leaders. And then the Niners we have coming in at 5, Rams right behind them, of course, like we said before, both 12-5, and the Panthers sneaking in with a 9-8 record because, hey, football is fun, and the Panthers are a fun team, I guess.
All right, going over the results of the wild card by showing off our divisional seeding. The Broncos are a weird team, and it feels like every time they're either playing down to competition or putting themselves in a hole they end up pulling themselves out of somehow. But, like, you can't do that stuff in the playoffs. I don't know. They may put together a consistent offense. That defense is insane, so maybe their defense will be strong enough to carry it. But after discussion, we decided the Jaguars would pull off another stupid upset, an AFC West team. And the Jaguars went into facing the division rival Colts in the divisional. As in for the Bills versus Chiefs, this is the one we went back and forth a lot on. But if we're talking about this scenario specifically where the Chiefs don't win their division, then this Chiefs team probably won't be as unbeatable as it was before if it's not a division winner because I think it's a sign of decline. In that scenario, we're deciding to give the Bills to finally a win over the Chiefs, but knowing how things tend to work, this will probably age poorly. But in this scenario, we're going with the Bills. And as in for the Steelers versus Patriots, do I need to say anything? It's the Steelers making the playoffs and then getting first rounded. That's just tradition. Until we see otherwise, that's going to be the prediction every time.
Yeah.
And thus, that's going to be our AFC divisional matchups with the Jags and the Colts, and then the Patriots and the Bills, both being two divisional games. We'll get to them. As in for the NFC, Seahawks do beat the bye. The Eagles beat the Panthers. Well, I mean, frankly, if you look at the rosters, the talent in the Eagles is ridiculous compared to the Panthers. And well, there's maybe a chance they could stick around and pull off something stupid. It's just not something we're gonna predict here. Lions over the Rams. They got the home field advantage. That's kind of doing a lot of it here. The Rams are a very good team and easily could be a Super Bowl team this season, but we're gonna give it to the Lions at home, especially since they've done it before. And speaking of that, the 49ers, they may be on the road, but the Buccaneers, this team's not going to be 100% healthy even after everything said and done. Same thing with the 49ers. But Kyle Shanahan is just so much better than Todd Bowles as a head coach, and we think that the 49ers will pull it off due to this coaching discrepancy. And that's going to be our teams making it past the wild card in the NFC and the AFC.
All right, so here we have the AFC championships, and of course that means that the Colts won against the Jags because as the Jags, seem to be able to upset teams and have that ability. Their ability to go further than that doesn't seem very strong, especially against the Colts, who have a really strong defense, and their offense is just going to be able to score so many points, it feels like, in a playoff game. It's like they do in the regular season, because Jonathan Taylor, there's no way he falls off in the playoffs. Like, even if Daniel Jones is not great, like, Jonathan Taylor is still going to be a beast, so they should be able to beat the Jags. Not too bad. Like, it shouldn't be too bad for the Colts to beat them. And then, of course, we have the Buffalo Bills beating the Patriots. This is the one that I went back and forth on because I don't think we're ready yet. As a Patriots fan, I don't think we're ready as a team yet to beat someone like the Bills. But the Bills have shown weaknesses as we have been able to exploit earlier, as seen in the season, winning against them. Can we do that in a playoff atmosphere where they're probably going to have home field advantage? I don't think so. So that's the main reason why. Last time we played Buffalo in a playoff game, we got blown out, and that was Mac Jones. And our team is probably better than it was then. So we'll have to wait and see. It could definitely be a lot closer than it was last time we faced off in the playoffs. But Buffalo probably gets that win nonetheless. And then, of course, we have the Colts facing off against the Bills now in the championship game. And then over on the NFC side, we have the Lions winning against the Eagles, even though it's going to be close. The Lions just probably have a better overall team than the Eagles this year. And I think there's no way the Lions don't, choke away another playoff game like they did last year against the Commanders. I think they just beat the Eagles on offense, to be honest. Like, the Eagles offense is looking very fraudulent compared to how it was last year, and that's mainly because of Saquon. So if Saquon does turn it on, it could be a very, very high scoring shootout, but I still think the Lions get it done because at the end of the day, their fourth down trick plays and whatever they bring out to surprise the Eagles is probably what's going to win them that game. And then, of course, we have the Niners winning against the Seahawks, and it's mostly just because Shanahan and the Niners do so good against divisional opponents, even if it's in the playoffs. Like, it's also Sam Darnold, so, it's a little like, ooh, Sam Darnold, last time he played in a playoff game, didn't go too well, so I think the Niners just do really well against divisional opponents in the playoffs, and so their history of that is giving us the confidence that they're going to beat the Seahawks. But anyways, now we are going to head over to our Super Bowl prediction via our picks on the championship game.
Colts versus Bills. At the end of the day, Josh Allen feels like a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, even with the way he's been playing. And James Cook, maybe not as good as Jonathan Taylor has been playing, but still is an insane running back. And both defenses are once again comparable. I just think that we've seen the Bills do it more than we have the Colts. I'm not willing to bet on this Colts team making the Super Bowl at this time, and that's how we felt as a group. So the Bills are gonna have to make it from the AFC, though. Maybe the Colts will pull it off, but we're just not ready to make that right now. And as in for 49ers versus the Lions, eventually those injuries of the Niners had to catch up to them, and against the Detroit team hosting them, it seems like a prime spot for revenge, especially with that motivation of revenge. And from the last time these two teams played in an NFC championship game, it just makes sense the Lions would break through. If they don't, obviously I'd be quite sad. But in this scenario, it seems like the most likely outcome. So that leaves us a Super Bowl that people have been asking for at least the last 3 years now. Bills versus Lions. And of course, we got to pick a winner. Unfortunately, one of these teams will remain without a Super Bowl ring as we end up reaching as a group.
We have
I'm gonna
decided, yes, that the Lions finally get it done. Jared Goff and Dan Campbell finally get it done alongside all of the other players on that team. Penei Sewell, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, they all finally get it done, and they win the big game. They win the championship game, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl. So the two games that they haven't, well, they never went to a Super Bowl. So they finally win the one game they haven't won, and then they win the one game they've never been to in the same season. So that'd be sick to see. And yeah, it just makes so much sense that the Lions win this year, considering that the rest of the teams that usually go, like the Chiefs, the Eagles, maybe the Ravens even, are just teams that don't seem like they have the ability to make it all the way this year. Too many injuries, too many inconsistencies, but the Lions have been able to be consistent regardless of the injuries. And they're just a really good offensive team, and their defense is just very, very for their play style, for their ability to go for it on fourth down. So it just helps out their defense a lot. And it makes so much sense that they would win the Super Bowl, even though it's going to be it'd probably be a very entertaining game between them and the Bills. Aqua, of course, you should probably add something as you are the fan of the Lions here.
It could be, if you don't like this prediction, just do hashtag blame Aqua in the comments, obviously, as it's my fault. No, serious. No, this was made with the input, like I said, of 4 individuals. It would be nice if the Lions win, but because people want it to happen, it probably won't. I think the Lions team is in a good spot to still pull it off this year, even if, like I said, they've not looked perfect through all their games so far. They have what they need, and if they can stay healthy, definitely like last year, they were in a good spot to do it, but they weren't healthy. This year, they're healthy, so maybe they'll actually do it. And as we stated, the Eagles haven't looked good this year. At least not looked consistently good this year. The Niners are beat up. The Rams, maybe. It really depends on what teams drill what teams in the playoffs. In this scenario, it just looked like the Lions had the better chance with the teams they were facing, and especially with the home field advantage against the Rams. So we so did the Lions. But yeah, that's gonna do it for our mid-season predictions.
All right, yeah, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Make sure to comment down below what you think about our predictions, and then maybe give us your own. Maybe give us, who you think the championship game is going to be between on the NFC and AFC side, and then give us your Super Bowl prediction and your Super Bowl winner. That'd be really fun to see you guys and what you guys think. Make sure to join our Discord. This is, where the polls and all this stuff kind of happened. Like, we were polling people. We were like, who's going to win this division? Who's going to win that? At the end of the day, it was just 4 of us who did this video, but we love to see your guys' reactions to the polls and who you think is going to win in whatever poll we end up sending out in the Discord. So make sure to join that, link in the description, and as always, we will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Bye.
Bye.